Gracias, General.
In a lengthy press conference in Lima on Saturday, Dina Boluarte defended her 10-day-old presidency.
There's a group that says Dina should resign. What does my resignation solve? Does it solve the problem? It doesn't. We will be here, firmly, until Congress decides to bring forward the elections.
She's in a precarious position, leader of Peru only after ex-President Pedro Castillo was impeached and detained. She was his vice president, and many now want her out and elections. She's tried to oblige, proposing a date, December 2023, but the country's heavily unpopular Congress has voted against moving the vote forward. It's currently scheduled for 2026. Meanwhile, there have been more than 20 deaths as protests have spread. Boluarte's government has declared a state of emergency. The army's been brought onto the streets, and it was noticeable that the first person to speak after her in the press conference was a general.
Bad individuals are moving from violent actions to terrorist actions, which are punishable at the highest levels of national law.
But critics say that the government's made a concerted effort to criminalise protests. And on Saturday, even as Boluarte spoke of peace and Peruvians coming together, anti-terrorist police were raiding the headquarters of an opposition party and a farmer organisation. More than 20 indigenous farmers were held, opposition party leaders told us.
Our colleagues are being interrogated, and they want to take them to the anti-terrorism center. It's really worrying, and evidence of how the government is trying to convince the population that peaceful protests are acts of terrorism.
An indignant crowd turned up to try and free them.
You can see that people have just come to try and protest against what's happening. There's still 20 people that are being held inside the building. You see the police lined here to try and stop them. It's images like this one that are sending alarm bells ringing about growing authoritarianism in the country.
The only way forward for a country in crisis seems to be elections. Now it's Congress's turn to decide if they're brought forward and if the country can move on with new leaders. Holman, Jazeera, Lima.